Good morning, everyone. Now, I think it's pretty safe to assume that the vast majority of you either are teenagers yourselves or very often interact with teenagers. So you know the daily struggle of waking up in the morning. It's the stereotype of teenagers desperately asking for 5 more minutes in the morning isn't baseless in the slightest. And I mean, we all have our reasons for it. You have schoolwork, work, your actual obligations to the rest of your life, extracurriculars. And this phenomenon of teenagers not getting enough sleep in the morning, or not getting enough sleep, period, isn't small scale at all. According to a study by the Youth Behavioral Risk Study, we know that 75% of all teenagers don't get enough sleep in the morning. From the same study, it tells us that in the state with the highest rate of well-rested teens, they only have 30%. That's less than a third. A little less than a third, but still less than a third. So, and we know that sleep deprivation is very, very bad for you. It makes learning in school more difficult, absorbing that information, and it makes paying attention much more difficult. In addition to that, it reduces your ability for emotional regulation. So what this creates is a vicious cycle of you working late in the night to go to class, to do the work that you need to do, coming home and continuing that work late into the night, not getting enough sleep, waking up in the morning, having to go right back to class, barely clinging on to your wakeful conscious self, not getting enough work done at all, coming back home and having the cycle repeat itself. So, how do we improve our health? How do we improve the well-being of our teenagers? Originally, I wanted to come up and I wanted to advocate for a nap time, a period in the day where people could stop, take a rest, go to sleep, what have you. But that's a very surface level change. Yeah, it might be effective for some people. It might be effective in the short term. But looking in a totality, it would be ineffective in one way or another, because it's a surface level change. Young people don't need surface level changes. We don't deserve surface level changes. We deserve systematic change. We need systematic change to allow ourselves to live better. In the process of looking through this, I also found, and I also realized, that there are so many other aspects that are negatively impacted by our school system. Right now, adolescent depression went from 8% in 2009 and skyrocketed up to 15% in 2019. In addition to that, youth incarceration rates are so high in the United States that they actually become a part of our total incarceration rate. In other similarly developed countries, that's not the case at all. Their youth incarceration rate doesn't even add to an entire person when incorporated in. And the way we model our schools is in a fashion called factory modeled education, meaning that we rely on standardized testing. We rely on a strict curriculum where if it doesn't work for you and you don't fit into it, you're left out, you're abandoned. Now, I'm not putting all the blame of all these statistics on schools alone. That would be absurd. There's a lot going on in the world right now, and a lot especially affecting young people. So it'd be unfair to put the sole blame on them. But the fact of the matter is that young people, teenagers, we spend 7 hours a day, 5 days a week 188 days a year in these buildings all across the United States. So if you want to impact young people, the easiest and most direct way of doing so is to go through the school system, because it affects so many so often. Now, there are different and unique ways of improving our school system that we can model off of other places where it works. In Sweden, they have a system where their 10th to 12th grade allows for specialization, adding autonomy. It lets people choose specific programs where they can invest their time and their learning capability into the trades, the arts, going into even further higher education in universities. They make it so young people are able to choose their destiny. But we don't even have to look out at the United States to find good alternative solutions. In fact, you don't have to look outside of this building. NeoCity, the building that we're in right now, it has a schedule where one period is an hour and 30 minutes long, and there are only 3 classes a day. Of course, rotating, because we have 6 total classes, but still. What this allows for is more dedication, more focus put on to a single activity a day. I am not here to explain to you all every single alternative to the current system we have. There are thousands of those, and hundreds of people who are smarter than me who can spend years going through them all. What I'm here to do is to advocate for change, to advocate for the fight for change. Parents, it may often seem like you have no into the system, but in fact, you guys have some of the most sway out of any other group interacting with the school system. Your voices and your support for a changing in the school system can allow us to gain influence, to gain momentum, so that maybe you don't have to be wrangling your child out of bed every morning. And administrators, you guys are under the most stress and the most pressure. You're focused on by so many other groups from the top and from the bottom. So I understand it can be difficult to argue for something different, something risky. But when it comes to choosing between sitting with mediocrity and sitting with a system that hurts the people within it, and being a leader and moving for something better, moving for something greater, in my opinion, that's an obvious choice. And finally, my fellow students, my peers. So often it can feel like we are powerless, like our voices are left in the dust and ignored by those above us. But the fact of the matter is that we know the system the best. We know how it affects us. So it is our duty to stand up for ourselves and for our peers and for our friends, to go onto every single rooftop and yell and explain why we're being hurt, how we're being hurt, how to improve the system, to yell for change. It is not the duty of one group alone. It is not the responsibility of one group alone. We all have to work to improve a system that, in one way or another, harms us all. I thank you for your time.